no's, hellos, and welcome back to another videos. And today we are back with Card v Card. Yes, finally, it's about that time, and it's so much about that time. I'm standing up while doing this. So yeah, I hope to have the most enthusiasm in this. And here we are. We're finally back to Card v Card. Now, some of you may be wondering, why am I doing this now? Well, because I had a recent video talking about the top 10 best cards of standard rotation of 2020, and surprise, surprise, spoiler alert, you can click off this video if you want to view it for yourself, but Oko was at number one. And I was talking about Jace in that video, so what are we going to be talking about in this one? Well, you can clearly tell by the title, but we're going to talk about Jace the Mind Sculptor and Oko. Oh yes, what a glorious battle that will be, filled with elks and mind sculpting. I don't know how that works, but we're about to find out in this video. Without just the visual appeal, we'll just kind of just imagine it in your head though. Just imagine them fighting. Imagine all the elks and all this stuff. But yeah, let's just get on to the video right now. Okay, so today we have a kind of an interesting card, but you probably already know it. It's Jace the Mind Sculptor, better known as the Boogeyman, and that's probably what I'm going to call these two. I'm going to be calling these two by nicknames, and you'll see like the little quotation marks in the video title. I'm getting so meta now. And yeah, so we basically have the Boogeyman and Broko, and that's what we're going to be kind of calling it in this video, kind of to shorten it up. So anyway, the Boogeyman Jace is 2 blue blue for a Planeswalker, and his +2 is look at the top card of target player's library, and then you could put it at the bottom of that player's library. Now that's kind of like a Fate Seal effect. That's kind of powerful. It kind of reminds you of a certain bauble that's kind of broken. I'll probably put up this disgusting card in the video, but here you go. All right, you got it. All right, cool. So yeah, that's kind of a very interesting effect. But probably his most powerful effect is zero ability, which is draw 3 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. So this is basically kind of like Brainstorm, which is actually a really powerful card and probably one of the most heavily tournament placed cards ever. It's basically, people say it's the best card draw spell in the game, but I don't know. I mean, you got Ponder, you got Preordain. I mean, you got all those cards. Okay, let's just say it's one of the most powerful. But yeah, I mean that's pretty powerful ability for a Planeswalker to have, especially at 0. And there's a common theme between these Planeswalkers, and we'll be talking about them later. But yeah. And then anyways, his -1 is basically unsummon, which is return target creature to its owner's hand. Yeah, that's kind of powerful, but who knows at this point. And then his -12 is just really, if you get to his -12, which is very easy in the decks he was played in, exile all cards from target player's library, then that player shuffles his or her hand into his or her library. So yeah, basically you just take their whole library, exile it, and then their hand becomes their library, which is ridiculous. So yeah, you can see why this is a really powerful Planeswalker. And this Planeswalker was played, well, I shouldn't say this Planeswalker, the Boogeyman, was actually played in a deck called Stoneforge deck. I actually totally forgot about the name. It's just, oh god, it's too big. Oh, Cobblade. There we go. Yeah, it's Cobblade. I forgot it because it was so disgusting and so powerful. I clearly made that up. I just remembered it just now. Maybe Jace is mind sculpting me right now. Who knows? But yeah, he was played in Cobblade, and what this deck aimed to win with is Squadron Hawk. And what you would do is try to protect Jace the Mind Sculptor as much as you can. And this is more of a deck that adapts. And their sideboard was really good against adapting. And Squadron Hawk was kind of one of the ways this deck run. But after Stoneforge Mystic came out, the deck became really unstoppable because you can search up for really powerful swords to put on your birds. Because why not have a flying army that's annoying to pick off in the air? Because Blue-Eye Flyers ain't broken enough. We just needed a deck to kind of revolve around that. Eventually, this actually did get banned in Modern, and it was banned in Standard, of course. It was just a really powerful card, and people thought of this as the most powerful Planeswalker ever, and that's why everyone called it the Boogeyman, because clearly he looks like a boogeyman, and also because he basically scared the whole meta around him because he was that powerful. And getting rid of him basically took the control off of you because Jace was kind of controlling at this point, but now we see Jace as kind of like those cards that just are like Teferi, they just draw cards and kind of interrupt stuff, which this card kind of did, but the decks he was played in were just inexcusable, so that's why he got banned. Unfortunately, though, there was an uprising to get this card unbanned because people thought of it as being kind of cool and interesting type of planeswalker with 4 abilities. Now, we've only seen one other planeswalker with 4 abilities. Well, actually, I think 2, 3, 4. Okay, I don't even know at this point. But yeah, just a planeswalker with 4 abilities, and people would be like, damn, that's pretty good. I mean, maybe we should print other cards like that. And they did. I mean, they did. We got Planeswalker with abilities now. I mean, that's basically 4. So, what happened? Well, it got unbanned in Modern. And same as Stoneforge Mystic. Now, did this deck take off? No. And the reason for that is that decks have just gotten way faster and way more quick than ever before. Take, for instance, Hogak. That deck was just really powerful because it was quick and easy to get off the ground. While Jace, the Mind Sculptor decks, or Cawblade, was just there for delay, I guess? Because all the main win con was just Jace, the Mind Sculptor. You were basically protecting Jace from any incoming or oncoming threats. Now, take, for instance, the new type of meta we have. There's just a bunch of ways to remove planeswalkers now that there's really no point to run a deck just revolved around one planeswalker because he was just so good that there was barely any removal to interact with him. And this is when a lot of cards didn't have ways to remove planeswalkers. Maybe they had Dreadboard, but that was it. So yeah, just a really powerful planeswalker, and it really just revolved around him. And that's why this card was really powerful. Now, let's try to make him fight against another powerful planeswalker, which is Oko. And we'll be talking about Oko now. So clearly, planeswalkers have come a long way. Some are 3 casted, some are 2 casted, heck, some might even become 1 casted maybe. But we all know this. There's one planeswalker that can't really fit anything. Because this planeswalker just goes beyond what a planeswalker should be able to do. And you'll see why when I talk about Oko, Thief of Crowns, better known as Broko, because that's what happened when he got put into the meta. So, let's actually talk about the full extensive history of Oko. And we'll be doing it in this video because I didn't do it in the top 10 video I had, but we'll be talking about it here. And I might repeat myself, so bear with me if you already watched my other video. So it's a 1 green blue legendary planeswalker Oko. Okay. It has a +2 of create a food token, which is basically a life gain token that looks like food. Yummy. Don't eat cardboard rectangles, kids. So yeah, that could be kind of powerful, that's like, yeah, that's kind of powerful. I mean, reoccurring life gain, hello. But anyways, that's not why he's powerful. This is why he's powerful. His +1 is target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a 3/3 elk. Now, granted, some people wrote that thing off as being kind of iffy in sorts and not actually a removal spell. But when you take a closer look at it, it actually becomes clear of loses all abilities. Now that is a very powerful way to just destroy a creature basically. Even if it's a 3/3 elk, it is not really a problem because, as we've seen before, like pacifism effects or effects that kind of exile stuff, that doesn't really become an issue because you basically took one card out of their hand just to do something about it. Like with Oko, all you need to do is remove it, right? Nope, it's permanently gone. And the problem we have today is with permanent effects like that is now more effects are becoming temporary removal. Not much is permanent. We can exclude black, but yeah, most of the times it is temporary. But this is permanent, and that's what gave green and blue decks an edge and made him kind of controlly in a way. And his -5 is not really useful, but I can still read it because sometimes it comes up. Exchange control of target artifact or creature you control and target creature an opponent controls with power 3 or less. So if you turn their creature into an elk, you can exchange control of it. Seems pretty simple enough, right? Well, it's won a tournament before, I could tell you that. In fact, this one time I saw it at a Mythic Champion an event, and this Oko player and the Sack player were really close, and it was a close game, but he found a way to win. And what he did was he traded this, he had a 3/3, and the other dude had a Hasty Boy, like Mayhem Devil. And what that did is the token was already tapped, and all he had to do was swing for the win. And that one blocker could have saved him, but he did not know that ultimate existed. And here to this day, some people still don't know it exists. But it exists, so there it is. I just read it to you. So yeah, so why was this card so broken? Well, in the decks it was played in, it was really good at getting food tokens, and also ways of making 3/3 elks. But that wasn't the only reason why it was broken, is because it made food decks basically a thing in standard. And this card really helped it because you could just create food tokens for free, unlike Gilded Goose. And food decks actually didn't see much play, but they did when they had Oko, Thief of Crowns. And this made the deck really, really good to run food because you could run food for your Oko. You could think of it as energy, like in Kaladesh or something. That can feed off Oko's power. Now, the reason why Oko was so broken is because of his loyalty and his casting cost. But not just that, his +1 became removal basically, and most removal on Planeswalkers was negative. So this is the first time we ever saw a Planeswalker with plus removal. And this made it really powerful. In fact, so powerful that it had to be banned in Standard because every deck revolved around Oko. And it was just disgusting. And people actually hated this card because of it, because it revolved around Oko. Everything did. And they even had a day called Oko Day, which is 3/3/2019. And you may think to yourself, wow, this card is just really broken. You could see why. It even had its own day, man. But it didn't stop there. And it had a 70% deck play. You heard me right. Deck play in tournament. Not even top 8. It had a 70% deck play out of everything. Oko was just really good. And it had to actually be banned in Pioneer because they were afraid that this would go out of control. Because blue and green decks would just run it because it's a card they can run. It's just a card they can run. And then Modern happened. And what happened in Modern is Oko went in a deck called Urza. And now Urza is a deck that tries to adapt its mana into big spells and also use some control magic to help gain its control over stuff. And have some lockouts and stuff like the infinite combo with Thopter Foundry, but you get the idea. It's basically an adapted deck with a bunch of combos. So Oko made it so powerful because you can get out artifacts, which were food tokens. So you can see where this is going now. And Oko was just really powerful. And Modern did not like this because it made Urza decks way too powerful, and that's why Oko had to be banned because, again, everything revolved around Oko in Modern, and it was crazy. And people didn't like it, so they said, nah, Oko's way too good in this. So yeah. And it was banned in Historic, it was banned in Brawl, it was banned basically everywhere except for 2 formats, Legacy and Vintage. Well, I guess Commander too, but we're not counting it on this list. So yeah, in Legacy, this still sees play in Snoko decks. Yes, you heard it right, there's still a deck of Oko, and it's called Snoko. What a corny way to say that, but it's true. It's true. In fact, I think the top deck recently was a Snoko deck. And I think Legacy, this is the most played deck in Legacy because of Arkham's Astrolabe, and it runs really well with Oko because he could just turn it into a 3/3 elk if he really needs to. And yeah, he did not stop there. He was just really good in Legacy. And then he went on to Vintage. Now in Vintage, he's playing more traditional decks like Rug Control, or he's even played in some Oath of Druids builds. With this in mind, you can still have an advantage of getting creatures, even if Oath of Druids doesn't come out. This made Oath of Druids have a second way of winning, and Oko Thief of Crowns was the way to win. Because Oko was so good at making decks win, Oath of Druids sided it in to put in an extra win con, and that was Oko. But it also gave an advantage if your opponent was playing a mirror match, you can basically turn off their really busted creature using its +1. And then in the long run, you can -5 and exchange control of that busted creature they happen to have with yours. And even get those pesky orchards off the Forbidden Orchard tokens off the field. Or you could just turn them into 3/3s. If running the mirror match, I mean, someone's gonna tap a Forbidden Orchard. Might as well make it a 3/3, not a 1/1. So yeah, Oko just really didn't stop there. Now, let's compare the two cards and verse them against each other. So yeah, they're in a big fight. Oko versus Jace. Now, let's see. Let's talk about which one would actually win. And I mean literally actually win. I'm talking lore here, okay? So in lore, okay, you can give Jace the edge because Jace is kind of powerful in his own way. He can mind wipe people, and he could do a lot of telekinetic things with memory magic or even, amnesia stuff. And Oko would probably have a hard time with that, even though he has his 3/3 elks, That could be kind of cool, and he could turn Jace into an elk. That's gonna be one hard nut to crack because Jace has a really, really solid mind, and I mean that literally. So it'd be hard for him to get manipulated into turning into a 3/3 elk, unlike Garuk. You see, Oko is just kind of the troll though, and you could think of Jace as kind of the mastermind behind this whole thing. Now, let's scratch aside the lore and let's move on to the actual cardboard rectangles, because this is what it's all about in this. It's card v card, not person to person. We're not having a boxing match. No, we're having a freaking paper match with cards. Yeah, it sounds really boring, but if you get into the imagination part of your mind, you can see where this is going. Okay, so in a paper match, okay, there's a Jace the Mind Sculptor deck and an Oko Thief of Crowns deck. Which one would win? Oko Thief of Crowns decks would win. Food decks versus Stoneblade decks, because that's probably what they would be, is Stoneblade now. They might be Clawblade, but I think Stoneblade's a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, Oko decks would just be really good, and it would kind of disrupt Jace's overall plan. Not to mention, he has a higher starting loyalty than Jace. Let's be real here. But yeah, no cocks, no blocks, Oko would win. Just because in the fact of all of his abilities. Even though he has less of them, they're more powerful. Because he can disrupt the board and create a very degenerate lockout state where you have all these 3/3 elks, all these food tokens, and everything revolving around food. While with Jace the Mind Sculptor, you have some birds. I mean, like damn, I mean those birds can fly over you with those swords, but is that really it? Is that your game plan here? Oko can freaking make some elks, do stuff with food, have these wolfies fight. I mean, I've seen decks where the wolves fight. Like there's a wolf fight card, and if you sacrifice a food, it gains indestructible. It's crazy, man. It's really crazy. So yeah, and it also has a bird too. It's called Gilded Goose. So yeah, I mean, Jace is a pretty cool deck overall, and it was really powerful for its time. But let's look at the new modern era of Magic. magic is getting more powerful. And with that power creep, we see more busted planeswalkers like Oko, Thief of Crowns. And I feel like Jace is just becoming the grandpa of this, and Oko's just becoming that really messed up little brother that just wants to troll you as an old man. Because if you're the oldest brother in your family, I mean, come on. You gotta have, if you have other brothers, you gotta have one little brother that's like a troll to you. Let's be real. And Oko really feels that role. So yeah, Oko would win hands down as just being the better card out of all of them. But what do you guys think? What do you think is the more powerful card? Let me know in the comments below and we'll see if you're right or if you're wrong. I still think Oko is, but you guys might think Jace is. And hey, I got nothing wrong with that because if you like an emo hoodie looking dude instead of like a like a dude with blue eyeliner with the blue hand and a crown, looks like thorns, and he's got some build right there. Look at that build, you know. I mean, good on you. But anyways, that's just gonna do it for the video. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day or night. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Bye and peace.